Stingray is back to normal after my quick little bout of bronchitis last week, and boy, do we have a show for you this evening, as we're going to be joined right after this open by a current Jacksonville Jaguar punter and kicker who played at Mississippi State from 2014 through 2017 and put 150 punts in the air at Mississippi State. Logan Cooke will join us right after this open, right here on the Stingray Show.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good. It's kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah. But then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9, with the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And with that, we want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. My guest this evening is going to be Logan Cooke, who was a punter at Mississippi State. And while at Mississippi State, he had 150 punts. Now, 35 of those 150 traveled more than 50 yards, and 60 of the 150 went inside the 20-yard line. Currently, he is with the Jacksonville Jaguars as the punter and kickoff specialist. And in 2024, like I said off the top, he earned his trip to the Pro Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome to the Stingray Show former Mississippi State Bulldog and current Jacksonville Jaguar, Logan Cooke. Logan, how are things with you, my friend?
Hey, great, dude. I appreciate you having me. This is kind of this might be a little fan moment for me, dude. I used to crack up at listening to you on Fine Ball and that during that whole 2014 run. So that was a good time.
So I appreciate that. But real quick, before we get into your college and NFL career, you are an avid hunter and you own your own outdoor company specializing in turkey calls. With turkey season right around the corner, right here in Alabama, please give us a little insight about your business.
Yeah, so I actually turned that over to my buddies that we were in it in college together. It was kind of a fun deal though. So I'm not really involved with it anymore as much, but we used to in college. Funny story. We had a little shop in our backyard. Me and my two roommates and another buddy started this call making company, and it was called Southern Oak Outdoors, and we sold turkey calls, duck calls, hats and stuff too. But our main thing was hand turning duck calls and turkey calls back there behind our house there in Starkville, right behind Rick's. So
awesome.
Logan, I gotta ask you real quick. I mean, was it super profitable? I mean, were we paying for spring break with the proceeds? I mean, or are we just having some money to have a pizza on the weekend?
Yeah, honestly, it gave us a little more spending money. Just to, but most of the money we made right off the top, we turned it over into kind of more
smart move.
Yeah, more wood and items to kind of. We bought a new lathe, which is kind of what you turn the wood with. So bought a new one, and yeah, we kind of turned into that. And eventually, when I got in the NFL, I was just too busy to, kind of stay working with it. But yeah, it was fun. It was cool in college. We again, like you said, we made enough money to, go on a few hunting trips and do some things. And so it was cool.
So, Logan, coming out of high school, you were an all-state punter from Columbia Academy down in the Pine Belt of Mississippi. So, with you being an all-state punter, who all was recruiting you?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I played all three sports: baseball, basketball, and football in high school. I played in the All-Star game for basketball and baseball, and not football. So that's kind of a fun fact. But yeah, it really wasn't very highly recruited. It was I had a few schools, smaller schools, Monroe, La Tech, some of those places, Southern Miss. Alabama was pretty high on me until whenever I went to the camp that summer. It was kind of between me and J.K. Scott that day, and J.K. punted lights out. I didn't punt bad. I think we were seniors in high school then, and I didn't punt bad, but he just punted very good and put on a show, and obviously he went on to do some great things as well. So
yes,
Logan, what was your best sport in high school? Was it football? And if it was, what was your second best sport?
I don't know. I'd probably say baseball. But then again, I played at a private school, smaller private school in basketball, so we didn't play a ton of big schools, but that was probably our best team sport. Was basketball. We beat a few bigger schools that we would just play for the fun of it, and kind of that was fun. And again, I was 6'6", so that helped. But baseball, I mean, I was upper 80s, touching 90 kind of guy, lefty, so that helped me out on the baseball end of things. So honestly, making a difference, I would say baseball.
right.
But basketball and football right there as well.
Were you getting any college looks for baseball and basketball in high school?
Basketball, not as much. I didn't really try to pursue that at all. I played some summer league travel baseball going into my senior year. I kind of thought I wanted to do both. That was my mindset. And then I can't remember the team that I think it might have been the Rockies that came to a high school game, and a scout came and watched me throw. And I remember after it, I'm so stubborn. I beat myself up this day, but I told the scout afterwards, thanks, but I'm playing football in the SEC. So that might have hurt my shot there, but yeah.
Right. So Logan, what was it like for you the first time that you ever met Coach Dan Mullen?
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan. Coach Mullen was the kind that if you like someone, messing with you sometimes, and you had tough skin, y'all were gonna like each other. I had Urban Meyer and for a little stint in Jacksonville, and they were, coaching wise, they coached the same, and they both poked fun. And I'd be back there punting in college, and Coach Mullen would kind of walk by you and kind of bump into you and try to knock you over and just try to mess with you. And that, if I didn't have thick skin, that'd probably bother you. But a lot of times it would, we'd laugh about it, and I would flip in the bird or something and go punt. So it was a good time. And that's how he was when you met him. He was a goofball, but a great coach and a player's coach, and yeah, still keep up to this day. So,
Logan, we've asked a lot of people on this show that played in the NFL, what's the most fun you ever had playing football? And I was always thinking it would be the Super Bowl seasons or the all-pro seasons that they had, or the deep runs they made in college. But almost everybody on this show talks about they had the most fun in high school playing with their buddies. What was the most fun for you playing football?
Yeah, high school. I talk about it all the time. I'll speak at some, this morning I spoke at FCA here in my wife's hometown of Benton, Mississippi. And again, small school, kind of how my school was, Columbia Academy, small school. And most everyone you grow up is 3 years old going to the same school and same classroom. And again, all through, you play travel ball together, and you go to all these camps and stuff, and you play Pee Wee, junior high, high school, and that, I mean, you get to play with your buddies. So,
well, let me follow it up. What was the most fun season you had in college, and what's the most fun season you had in the NFL?
College, 2014, by far. I mean, that was just, you can't. Yeah, that was the year. That was the funnest year. Oh, I don't know, probably. That and the one I'm going to tell you about the NFL probably tied. But I guess the reason NFL would trump it is just because I didn't really have it figured out in 2014. I was also supposed to be redshirted. Devin Bell pulled his groin in pregame, so I had to play against A&M that game, and I had no idea I was going to play. So that year I was just trying to keep my head above water and not mess up. It's kind of the way I was going about things. I went from playing in Columbia Academy in front of 400 people in our home stands to going and playing Davis Wade and Alabama, and so it was a big jump. But NFL would definitely be a couple years ago. We went to the playoffs and had a couple playoff wins. That was fun. There was Coach Peterson brought just a new vibe into Jacksonville, and it was fun. We were winning. We started off not winning, then we had to win like 7 or 8 in a row to get to the playoffs, and we did that. Our last 7, 8 games, I think it was, we won all of them, and then we had that game against the Chargers. We were down 27-7, I think, at halftime, and came back and kicked a game-winning field goal, and then went and had lost in the playoffs. This next playoff game to the Chiefs, but that was a fun year of football. It was the team's close, and again, hitting anytime. I don't want to be kicking a game winner, but anytime I get a whole one, that's cool too. So
yes. So, Logan, we're up against our first break, and when we come back, we are going to dive into your first season at Mississippi State, which was that magical #1 season. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Logan Cooke will return with us right after this. It's dinner time, West Alabama, and let me tell you about one of the best new restaurants in Tuscaloosa County. I'm talking about 2059 Restaurant and Bar, located at the old Ruby Tuesdays location in Cottondale across from the TA truck stop. One of their signature dishes includes fish and grits, which is grilled catfish, onions, bell peppers, and Dula sausage sauteed in their Creole cream sauce, served over cheese grits. That is absolutely one of the best dishes I have ever put my mouth on. Make plans today to go by and see them Tuesday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then, of course, on Saturdays, they are open for lunch 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. Once again, that is the 2059 Restaurant and Bar in Cottondale, Alabama, across from the TA truck stop. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Logan Cooke from Mississippi State, and now a Jacksonville Jaguar NFL player. And Logan, before the break, we were talking about you meeting Coach Mullen for the first time. What ultimately drew you to Mississippi State?
Yeah, I mean, being a high school kid in the South, you want to play in the SEC, and Mississippi State actually ended up being my only SEC offer. So yeah, it was pretty much between Alabama and Mississippi State. And what high school kid didn't want to play at Alabama in 2013? That was when I was getting ready to graduate. So yeah, Coach Mullen offered me, and that was I committed in his office whenever he offered me. So that was pretty. I didn't need much convincing there.
So Logan, the first year that you got on campus, the Bulldogs went to #1 in the country for the first time in school history. Talk about how crazy it was to join a team that immediately became the #1 team in the country.
Yeah, it was cool. Like I mentioned earlier, playing at Columbia Academy, we weren't ever, I played in probably 3 or 4 homecomings a year, if that tells you anything. We were the homecoming team people wanted to have, and again, we just didn't have a ton of guys. We were AAA private school, which we had to play prep, and a lot of these big schools, and we just didn't have the numbers. But anyways, I went from that, just not having a great high school football record, to being #1 in the country, and it was pretty cool. Every game you expected to win, and yeah, I mean, when you're winning in Starkville, it's one of the coolest things ever. That place gets rocking.
Yes.
Logan, during that special season of 2014, do you have a maddening story of what it was like? Did you guys, walk into a restaurant like, oh, guys, it's comped on me? Or, did you walk into a party and everyone start clapping? Or because that place was crazy during that time. What
Yeah.
do you have a funny story, whether it's you or anybody else? You have a funny story you can share with us?
Yeah, so I was a rookie or a freshman, I guess. So I was trying to keep my head above water, and especially once I started actually playing, I was redshirted the first, I think, 3 or 4 games until Devin got hurt, and then I was playing. So yeah, I was just trying to figure it out and not be the reason we didn't win. But it was fun, dude. You'd walk into class, and yeah, like you said, everybody's like, "Oh man, like it was a great game Saturday. Like that was awesome. That was cool. We're gonna be there. We're driving to wherever next weekend to watch the game and all this stuff." And I think I remember that year was the first year Dak couldn't go to classes, so that was again, as a freshman, there was a lot that going on that I probably didn't know, but I do remember that was the year he had to start staying out of off campus at least. People wouldn't let him get around.
So, Logan, you've mentioned it a couple of times. Getting to number one, there was a game against Texas A&M where Devin Bell got injured pregame, and you stepped into the leading role immediately that game. What was that moment like for you when you got the nod, and what happened to Devin Bell?
Yeah, crazy story. So I had been redshirted for the first, I guess, 3 or 4 games, whatever it was that season, and it was kind of a cool gig. I'd get to go to these places and kick 150 balls in pregame and be so sore and wouldn't even, I'm just, again, going to Columbia Academy, playing in front of tiny crowds, and then all of a sudden you're in down there punting next to Les Miles in pregame and down in Baton Rouge, and it's just really cool moments that I got to experience without the stress of actually having to play. But yeah, A&M game, it was a home game. Again, that was kind of one of the first, I guess the second win. That was after the LSU game where he kind of got that thing rolling. And Devin came up to me in pregame and was like, "Hey, kind of pay attention in pregame or the rest of this pregame because I think I pulled my groin." And I kind of like blew it off, whatever. And Devin's a tough player and played through a lot of stuff, and got in the locker room, and we were getting ready to come out, and hadn't heard anything else, so I figured it was fine. And then Coach Mullen came to me and was like, "Hey, Devin's out. You're playing." And I was like, but honestly, I kind of liked the way that worked because I didn't have time to like really get nervous or any nerves going.
Right.
So 5 minutes later, I'm kicking the opening kickoff. So it was cool.
Logan, as a player and punters, I've always kind of wanted to know this. Do you like it when the offense is humming and everything's going great and you're just kind of like, I'm just hanging out over here. They're converting all the third downs. I'm just going to chill. They're scoring every drive. Do you like it when it's a day off, or do you like it when, you're getting 6-7 attempts and you're out there a lot?
No, I'm in athletics so we can win. So no one wants to. If we're punting a lot, there's a good chance we're probably not winning. And yeah, heck no. Especially in the NFL now, because I'm getting paid per game whether I punt or not. So if I get paid to not work, that's ideal. And to win, so it's a win-win for everybody. So no, I love days. I've never had a game where I didn't punt at all. But a lot of those punts, if you're up a lot, get a couple punts in the fourth quarter. Those are fun because they're kind of let it eat.
Logan, I have this random question that just popped up in my head. You ever watch those Australian rules football guys? You ever thought about doing that when your career's over? Because it looks fun, but it looks serious. Do you think you could go out there and just dominate with your leg?
Man, so I actually have watched a lot of it. Whenever I
figured as
drafted,
much.
Yeah, whenever I got drafted, again for different reasons. Whenever I got drafted, Joe DeCamillis was a coordinator at Jacksonville, and he had this punt he wanted me to hit. It was called a banana ball. If you watch any games I play in now, I hit it a ton, but if you drop the ball sideways and you're pretty much hitting just left of center, and the ball is helicoptering in the air and does a lot of movement. Returners hate catching it. In the NFL, returners are so good. You have to find some. You got to. The more clubs you have in your bag, the easier it is. Pretty much, I'm just trying to play keep away with that guy. So anything helps. So he told me to learn to hit it. And in college, it was all just like hit as high and far as you can. And then. So he told me about it, and I started Googling and found Aussie, which the banana ball developed in Australia from Aussie rules football because they can go like technically our back to the end zone and punt the ball through the uprights. So they hit that banana ball to like boomerang and make it through the uprights for points. So I watched a ton of YouTube videos on those guys, how to hit that ball. No, when I retire, I'm coming back to Mississippi for good. So I will not be going to Australia.
Towards the end of the 2014 season, Mississippi State hit a couple of bumps in the road at Alabama, at Ole Miss, and versus Georgia Tech in the Orange Bowl. In your opinion, what happened in all three of those games that led to those three losses?
Yeah, again, being a freshman, I know there was a lot going on. My eyes were still big at that point as far as during the game. I do remember Alabama. There was, again, you're playing Alabama. They're a great football team, especially back then. Yeah, I don't know. There were certain. I remember there were a couple calls at the end of the game that were very, very questionable. When we were driving down trying to win the game. But again, you're playing a really good football team down there. And then after that game, it was, we were out of the SEC championship. Alabama pretty much had it at that point. So I think the Egg Bowl had a lot to do with that. Not that guys weren't playing hard anymore, but we were just defeated. It was like you had this whole run of a season, and it's going to end up in Tuscaloosa. Everyone knows that's where it's going to be decided. And whenever that game was lost, it was like the air was just let out of the team, And then you all know, obviously, with the Egg Bowl, a lot of times the better record team gets beat. It's just kind of somehow that's how it always turns out, and that happened to be that year. And again, they were really good that year too, and that was and then Georgia Tech, bowl games are hit or miss.
Right.
But again, I think there was still a lot of air let out from no one wanted to be in Miami that year. They wanted to be somewhere else. So
yes.
Logan, talk about that Alabama game. You guys came out just completely dead first quarter, and I want to say it was 28-0 before you guys even got going, and then you made it a game. And it did come down to the last play. You guys fought all the way back into it. It came down to the last play. What happened that game? What do you remember about that game of when y'all just got the doors blown off to start that, the first quarter in that entire game with Alabama?
Again, now you're talking, that was roughly 9-10 years ago, I guess 10 years ago. So there was, and again, freshman big-eyed Logan was just trying to kick off and do what I was supposed to do. But I remember there was a lot of, at that point of the season, we really hadn't been down. There was never a point where we were, we came out guns blazing against LSU, came out guns blazing against A&M, Auburn, all those big games. Kentucky was kind of close-ish, but I don't think we were ever down. I think that, I don't think we were ever down at any point of the season except for that game. So that, that probably had a lot to do with it. As soon as you're playing a good football team, they come out rolling like that. It's, but again, a test to those guys and Coach Mullen. We did get back in the game there and made it the game at the end. But
Logan, you mentioned it, and I've said it on the show. I've actually said it for decades. I said it back in my college days. When it comes to the Egg Bowl, the team that has the most to lose usually does. You talked about the air was let out of the balloon after the game against Alabama there in Tuscaloosa that we just talked about. You go into that Egg Bowl there in Oxford. It did look like you guys were just kind of done, mentally done. Like, just, I don't want to say go through the motions, but you were just trying to get it over with. What was the vibe like after that Alabama game, going into the Egg Bowl and going into the Orange Bowl that year? Because you mentioned it. It was just kind of a different thing. You guys didn't want to be at the Orange Bowl. You wanted to be somewhere else. So what was that whole vibe like for you guys after the Bama game, especially the Egg Bowl?
Yeah, the Egg Bowl, you said it. I mean, it's when you lose that game, it's unlike the NFL and college. If you lose one game, if you lost to a good team, maybe two games, you can still, now with the playoff, you can get in the playoff. But man, we knew when we lost that game, it was we were just going to a bowl game and try again next year. That was kind of where it was. And it's when you're winning like that, especially in Starkville, it's all you're thinking about is a national championship. That was, beginning of the year, not as much. It's just not that we don't think we can. It's just, hey, we gotta get this thing rolling. Then when you're rolling, you get your one game away. It's like, this is it. And it's similar to the NFL. Like, now I've had sad to say, but I've had several years where, week 14, we're out of the playoffs and you still have to play 3 more games. And similar to those games, these games really don't mean anything other than your longevity of your career here. And then obviously film. I mean, that's really all it is. So, and you're also thinking about now at this level, you're thinking about injuries, hey, I have 3 more games left. We're not going to the playoffs, just Lord, please get me through this game healthy, And then you go back to the to Miami and the Orange Bowl. Georgia Tech, I don't remember exactly, but I know they were a triple option team, but they probably won games to get there. You know what I mean? So in their mind, they had earned that. In our mind, we were punished going to the Orange Bowl because we lost that game. So yeah, I mean, again, bowl games are very jaded on who wins, who loses. I don't think back then it was big on who people sitting out of bowl games. That wasn't a thing, but yeah, there's a lot of you said it. The team that has the least to lose usually comes out on top. On
that. Stephen, before we head to break, I just say, Logan, thank you for that Orange Bowl season because I got to go to Key West, Florida for the first time before the game that week. So thank you. I appreciate it.
There you go. Good
so deal. Logan, we're up against yet another break, and when we come back, we are going to quickly dive into the 2015 season and then move to 2016. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Logan Cooke returns with us right after this. Hey, West Alabama, bet you didn't know this. If you're craving some mouth-watering seafood, South's Finest Meats right here in Tuscaloosa offers crab legs, crab claws, red shrimp, raw shrimp, tilapia fillets, catfish strips, and catfish fillets. They also have hamburger patties made daily, as well as chuck roasts, ribeye steaks, New York strips, pork chops, and as well as chicken leg quarters. You can find all of this deliciousness and a whole lot more at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. Go by South's Finest Meats and be treated like an MVP.
Welcome back, SEC fans. You're listening to the Stingray Show here on Tide 100.9. I'm Heath Hopkins along with Stingray. Today, our guest is none other than the NFL punter, Logan Cooke. And Logan, you had a good season this year. And forgive me, I didn't do my research. I can look back at my phone and pull this up. How many times have you been All-Pro?
One time, actually.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure, but I know it was here recent. So what's the benefits of being All-Pro? I mean, do they send you a nice little T-shirt in the mail? Does anyone do anything nice for you? I mean, do you get a free cup of coffee? I mean, what's going on of being All-Pro?
It's more or less one, just obviously knowing that you're thought of as the best that year means a lot. But outside of that, it's honestly just something to have by your name for the rest of your life, and then it kind of helps in future contracts as well. So that's, it kind of sucks to say, but being a low market team, I love it because it's almost like it's kind of college vibe in Jacksonville. It's a small town feel especially when you get by the beach. It's real beachy, and it's just small town vibes. I mean, Trevor can go out and shop and eat food, and people will ask him for pictures or stuff, but it's not like people are hounding him and stuff like that. So it's a real small town vibe, but again, low market, which causes there to not be as many eyes on you when you play for Pro Bowl, All-Pro, stuff like that. So I don't tend to be too worried about that stuff, but it is cool to have by your name.
Now, here's a fun question, and this question just popped in my head. What was more maddening as a player, having a teammate, of getting all this love? Was it when Tim Tebow came and played there for the Jags during camp, or was it Dak his last couple of years there in Starkville? What was more maddening and just so much noise in and out of the locker room? Like, wow, this is insane. Which one do you think had more noise?
Yeah, I'd say Dak for sure. I mean,
really, wow.
I'm sure Tim in his prime was something, but man, you got to think a small town school like Mississippi State and Starkville. and we were winning, and he had to quit going to classes and all the things, and yeah, I mean that was something. We had Tebow for a little bit. That was a good time getting to be able to hang out with him and kind of pick his brain on certain things and just be around the guy. But yeah, the Dak and Starkville being one of the top players in the country was fun.
So Logan, going back to college in 2016, even though you're in the NFL now, you got to play an away game at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts against the University of UMass. What was that experience like of playing a college football game in an NFL stadium for you?
Yeah, that whole experience was terrible, to be honest. It was neat to get to play there, so the build up was cool, but I mean there might have been like 10,000 people there. It was a night game. It was pretty cold. It was they have still to this day when you play there, there's a big tunnel like the north corner of Foxborough, and the wind just rips through there. So it's not fun to play there if it is bad weather. And we played them way too close.
Yes.
We won, but it was way too close of a game. And then our flight got delayed for like 4 hours on the way home. So I remember that it was a nightmare. We sat in the little airport there and just watched football until the football games were over that night. And then obviously Coach Mullen wasn't very happy because we didn't play well. And so it was very awkward sitting there for that long. We sat there for probably 3 or 4 hours. And then I remember I didn't leave the facility until about 6:30 that morning when we got back. So it was a nightmare, to say the least.
It sounds like it. Looking at that game in the, playing there in Foxborough and having that experience. And I also remember during that game, the announcer said something along the lines of, look at all these fans from Mississippi State in their heavy jackets. This is just a brisk summer day. And I was like, what is a brisk summer day? I've never heard of a brisk summer day. Right. You hear all the state players and coaches talk about that game and how cold it was. But, you got to have a little taste in an NFL stadium. But when was that welcome to the NFL moment for you? You always hear about people having that. Now, you're a punter. It's different. You're not getting your bell rung as a running back or an offensive lineman or, a wide receiver or quarterback. But what was that welcome to the NFL moment for you? Was it in practice? Was it in a game? When was it like, oh man, this is for real?
Yeah, my first preseason game was against the Saints. And growing up in South Mississippi, I wasn't ever a big NFL fan, but the Saints were kind of, especially when they won the Super Bowl after Katrina, it was just very fitting. And I remember that all the South was behind the Saints that year. And so I watched Drew Brees, and that was the closest team to us. So you always saw their games on Sunday, and yeah, I was sitting there stretching on the 50-yard line my first preseason game, and Drew Brees just walked by with his headphones in. And I remember that was my first pretty cool.
Wow.
That
Wow.
was my first moment. Yeah.
So Logan, going back to 2016 there at Mississippi State, not 2 weeks later after the Gillette Stadium game, you guys had to travel to Provo, Utah to take on BYU. Talk about that experience and especially the atmosphere of playing BYU at BYU.
Yeah, when you see that game on the schedule, just growing up in the South, SEC fan, seeing that game on the schedule, you were just kind of like, oh, I got to go all the way to Utah. That was kind of everyone's mindset. But man, honestly, when you got out there, and Coach Mullen did a good job of building up the game because he had been out there for a while, and talking about just the beauty of where we're going. We went pretty sure we went early September, October. So it was an early game, so it wasn't cold. Man, it was just beautiful. And I've been snow skiing out there several times, so that was. I've always seen it in the snow. I've never seen it, kind of before snowfall hits. And it was awesome. Obviously, game wasn't great, but the people were so nice. And it was just the atmosphere was a really good football atmosphere. And then I remember pregame was kind of the game was at night, but pregame was at dusk time, and you could see the mountain ranges over the stadium behind you, and it was just a very cool moment. I played in Denver But other than that, I've never got to play in kind of in the mountains like that.
So, Logan, talk about what it is like to punt in a above sea level like that, please.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I said, that's between that and Denver's the only places I've really played that was very dramatic.
Right.
As far as like the air being thin. But that game, I don't remember a ton the punting there, but I remember Denver. I don't think I turned the ball over. And people that don't know, when you punt, you want to spiral the ball, and spiral turns the ball over. And I don't think I turned a single ball over that game, and I averaged like 50 yards a punt out in Denver.
Wow.
The ball just carries, and I was so just caught off guard by that. And yeah, it's cool. It's hard to breathe. I don't do a ton of running, but if you do run around in pregame, you can definitely tell why some of these big guys are hitting oxygen, after some big plays.
Yeah.
Logan, we're talking about all this geography, and I'm a geography nerd, but what was your favorite place to play in college, and what's been your favorite place to play in the NFL?
So we'll go away places because honestly,
Right.
I think that Davis Wade is just one of the coolest places with cowbells. And I'd say Baton Rouge is probably it's one of the coolest, iconic places college-wise to play. I never got to play. I've always wanted to play the Rose Bowl. I feel like that would have been a cool place, but never got to play out there. But
Right.
yeah, I would say Baton Rouge is especially whenever 2014 went down there, and they were really really good, and obviously rolling back then. And so to be able to be a part of a Saturday night game down there, and I think we played Saturday night, maybe in 16 as well. But yeah, to be able to go down there on Saturday night is pretty special. And then NFL, I'd have to say Kansas City's probably the coolest place. That and Buffalo and Philly are kind of the only few places that are very college atmosphere, if that makes sense. They have
Yeah,
that kind of have that buzz in there. And played Kansas City a few times, but that year we beat, I guess it was 22, whenever we beat the Chargers, and then we went out there for our second playoff game against the Chiefs, and it was snowing, like blizzard in pregame, and it was really cool. It was just one of those typical, one of the moments you kind of see when you're watching TV in these mid-January playoff games. It was just kind of that atmosphere. So definitely Kansas City.
I got to ask before we go to break, what was the lamest in college and in the NFL? What's been
South
the lamest
Alabama's,
so far?
Well, all right, South Alabama, Missouri, but Missouri, when we played there, they weren't very good. So now I'm sure it'd probably be different, but there weren't many people there. It was a Thursday night game and pouring down rain. And then
Yes.
South Alabama, I just hate it because it was like 120 degrees on that turf. So didn't enjoy that one.
So, Logan, we're up against yet another break, and when we come back, we are going to quickly dive into the 2017 season. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We are talking with Logan Cooke, the Jacksonville Jaguar punter, right now on the Stingray Show. Are you guys craving some mouth-watering catfish? Then let me tell you about the catfish that Coker Market serves. Now, there are two ways that you can get your catfish at the Coker Market. You can get a fried catfish sandwich with a grilled bun and tartar sauce, or you can get the catfish strips plate with two sides. That's at the Coker Market in Coker, Alabama, at the four-way intersection right there off of County Road 140. Go by the Coker Market today and get some amazing catfish, the best in Tuscaloosa County. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Our guest this evening is Logan Cooke, the Mississippi State and now Jacksonville Jaguar punter and kicker. And Logan, briefly, let's move to your senior season at Mississippi State there in 2017. Talk about beating down number 12 LSU at home that season, 37-7.
Yeah, that was a fun game. Getting to kick off that game was awesome. I remember the last kickoff of the game. It was just I don't know, playing that swag and surf song, and all the kickoff team was going crazy, and the stands were rocking. It was kind of, I think we'd gone up a couple of possessions, and we were going to win, and yeah, that memory lives rent free for sure.
Yes.
Logan, we were talking during the break a couple of breaks ago, and you were talking about your foundation and things like that, and Dak offered an autographed jersey. But tell us a fun story about Dak, when you guys stay in touch and when you guys see each other on the field after a game. What's something fun you can share with us about Dak? And also, please talk about your foundation.
Yeah. I remember whenever I first got to Mississippi State, my dad had kind of told me, talking about as far as work ethic and working hard and all this kind of stuff, he had told me just find whoever the hardest worker is and stay in their back pocket, wherever that is, with weight room, running, whatever it was. And me and Dak lifted completely different. But I remember the first time I ever ran the stadium, I remember that, and I was like, all right, I feel like Dak, just being here a couple of weeks, I've learned that he's kind of the guy. So I'm going to try to stay in his hip pocket this whole way. And I was in pretty good shape when I got there with baseball and basketball. I was like 6'6", 190, so I was a beanpole. But I remember I stayed right behind him, at least a couple people behind him, the entire stadium run, and I almost died. But I did. I finished like top 15 that day out of everybody, and it was literally because I said, all right, I'm going to stay as close to him as I can, and without him knowing, because I was just a freshman. But I did. I remember that was one of the moments that I learned, like, this dude's legit. Like, everything he puts on is all real. And Dak's always, we always catch up when we play each other, and always very helpful.
So, Logan, later in the 2017 season, Dan Mullen left Mississippi State to become the coach at Florida. When did you guys know that Coach Mullen was thinking about taking the job at Florida?
Yeah, everyone always kind of knew it was kind of a possibility. And again, it's not, everyone wanted the best for the guy. He did so much for us, and I feel like that was his dream job. And whenever it came available, I think that everyone kind of expected it. Obviously, we would have loved to have him, but it kind of worked out for me selfishly. That was my senior year, so I only played one game without him, and that was the bowl game. But
Right.
I mean, I was happy for him. He told us before, that break between the Egg Bowl and the bowl game, that he was leaving. And again, it was a very teary-eyed goodbye. He loved that place, and I know Megan loved it and their kids, and so it was probably a hard leave, but at some point you have to move on and keep doing things for yourself and your family, and that was one of those moments. And but yeah, it was definitely an emotional goodbye for sure.
Looking back at that bowl game, you guys were in Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken, and you were playing Louisville, and you were playing a Heisman Trophy winner during that game. But of all the bowl games you got to play in, because you got to play in 4, of all the bowl games you got to play in, what one was your favorite, and which one do you remember the most and look back and smile like, we had a lot of fun that week? What was that for you guys?
Honestly, the worst game we played in, I feel like the lowest level game, was the St. Pete Bowl. I think that was probably the funnest we had. Forgot the amusement park down there, but down there in Tampa, but we hung out there, and it was awesome. We were there for Christmas. We walked in on Christmas morning, and Coach Savage had a strength coach was dressed as Santa Claus, so we had a good time. It was kind of like we were all forced to spend Christmas together, and it was at first it was kind of a Debbie Downer, but we enjoyed it.
So, Logan, after college, you were called up for Pro Day and the NFL draft. With the draft coming up soon, take us step by step as you go from your final college game to being named and called on draft day, please.
Yeah, I felt like I had a decent college career, but I didn't have anything that was like to shake a stick at. It was just kind of who I wanted to play in the SEC, and that was kind of my shelf of what I wanted to do. It was just a God thing. It was kind of funny. We played in the Gator Bowl, in Jacksonville, and that's kind of where my career ended. And I told my dad when we left there that I was pretty much done, and he was like, all right, well, just it's your decision, but just know when you close that door, it's kind of hard to open it. So I said, all right, I'll try to play 1 year. And because the way it usually works with specialists is there might be 5-6 teams looking for a punter every year because the longevity of careers. So it's kind of hard to get not every team's getting one.
Right.
So a lot of guys stay out 2 to 3 years and finally get their foot in the door and play. And I didn't want to do that. But yeah, ended up by the grace of God, got drafted somehow. And pro day, I had a really good pro day. I didn't get invited to any Senior Bowls or combine, anything like that. And Hunter Bradley honestly had more looks out of college than I did as a snapper. And he, I think that's the only reason a lot of those scouts stayed for our pro day was to watch him. And I happened to punt well. And yeah, got drafted. He got drafted before me, but we both got drafted.
When it's all said and done, what do you want to do post football career? Do you want to get into coaching? Do you just kind of want to take it easy? Are you going to work with your foundation? What do you want to do when it's all said and done? Make turkey calls in your backyard with your buddies? What is it you want to do?
Yeah, I don't know. You mentioned the foundation. That's I forgot to piggyback off that earlier. Probably 2 years ago, me and my wife just felt led to do something with the platform we've been given, and that's kind of when we started the Logan Cooke Foundation. She's just as much part of it as I am, but the name just happens to be my name. But we partnered last year, and we're going to partner in 2025 again with a foundation or organization outside of Cleveland, Mississippi, Zoe Ministries. They've been doing work over in East Africa for several years now, and we partner with them. And every dime we make goes to fund water wells in some of these remote villages in Kenya. They're moving into Uganda now, so we got to go over there this past summer for a couple weeks and spend time with them and see the orphanage, see some of the villages we've been able to fund water wells in the past years, and see some of the new locations. So it's really cool, and we'd love your support on it. And it's we actually have our second annual banquet coming up March 22nd down here in Brandon, Mississippi. But yeah, so we'll have that going for a while, and then Lord willing, I retire and don't we don't have to get a real job. We can get a fun job. And I would love to just live here on our farm in Mississippi, and I don't know, work on land and train some dogs. So
awesome.
There you go.
So Logan, my final question for you. You mentioned earlier that there are a lot of stories about Coach Mullen that you can't really tell. So I've got to ask you, you talked about how close you were and still kind of are with former Mississippi State quarterback Nick Fitzgerald. Can you please give us a favorite funny story about Nick Fitzgerald that you enjoy telling?
He does not have 90 minutes, Stephen. I'm
Man.
sure. Look at the smile on his face. I could tell he could tell about 24 of these,
God,
which I would love to hear all of them and ask more.
Yeah, there's a lot more all-fair stories about, with Nick Fitzgerald stories than Coach Mullen. But God, I love Nick. That dude, he was a trip. He always made it fun. And we had this handshake. I can send you a picture of it, Stingray. But we had this handshake we got off a movie, and that's something we started my freshman year and kept it going all the way through our senior year. And yeah, he was just a goofy dude, man. And like times where he, for instance, got hurt against in the Egg Bowl that year, and there's that picture of him flipping somebody off, and he was flipping off Keaton, just like messing around. It wasn't even like he was. A lot of people think he was doing Ole Miss. He wasn't. He was doing it. Dude's legs snapped in half, and he's over here still cracking jokes. So that's just kind of the guy he was.
Taking his job.
Right. He was just kind of the guy he was, and yeah, he's something else, man. A lot of all fair stories for sure.
But nothing you can share with us? Nothing like practice or anything?
How about a road trip? Was there a spring break or a road trip you guys took?
Man, if I could go back and think about it, I wish you had told me before. I would have had something ready. I really don't. We used to go fishing a lot on the spillway down there in Artibaha County Lake. It was a private lake, but we had permission to go down there, and me and him used to go down there a good bit and just shoot the bull on the rock, sitting on the spillway, catching zero fish and having a lot of run-ins with snakes. So taking Nick Fitzgerald to a place like that was pretty interesting.
Right.
Oh, I bet. Logan, looking back at your career, you're starting to see an influx, or college football seeing a huge influx of these Australian kickers coming in. Is there like a rivalry with you guys, or what's so special about these Australians and them kicking? And just a couple of years ago in the SEC, when it was still 14 teams, I want to say 12 of the 14 teams or 13 of the 14 had Australian kickers. What is going on with these Australian kickers, and is there a rivalry with you guys?
No, not really. I mean, the Australian punting world is very. They just grow up doing it. You talked about Aussie rules football. Like punting is a huge aspect of that game, and they just kind of grow up in the game, and they're naturally gifted with punting the football. And there's not a rivalry. I feel like the Australian style fits a lot in college, but you don't see it a ton in the NFL. So if you see a Aussie in the NFL, they're just top tier. It's just naturally born to do it. And there are a few really good Australian punters in the league right now.
So Logan, what about this one? What is your favorite Urban Meyer story that you can share with us?
Oh, that one might get even more touchy.
Oh,
No, I love Coach Meyer. I mean, there was when he came in. Obviously, there's a lot of other situations been going on, but as far as coach when he was there, I love the buzz he brought. He brought so much like enthusiasm and stuff, and it was just it was something the NFL kind of a lot of buildings lack. That kind of you'd walk in just blaring music everywhere, which was fun, and obviously it didn't turn out great for everybody. But the time he was there, I loved it. I would be back there. One time I was punting and. Again, this is kind of I talked about Coach Mullen earlier doing the same stuff, and they were cut from the same cloth from the coaching world for sure. But one time I was punting, and he was saying that I was going too fast or something. I don't know. And Coach Meyer knew not a lot about punting. He knew a lot more about special teams than a lot of these other coaches do, which credit to him and Coach Mullen. They're like dialed in on special teams. They love it. But he stood back there and stood on my feet. And wouldn't let me go until he moved his foot off of my foot, and he sometimes he'd try to trip me back there, and I'd turn around and kind of like throw a ball at him or something, So we had a lot of fun though. He was a fun coach to play for.
so Logan, look, man, this has been absolutely amazing. The floor is all yours for anything else that you would like to say before we let you go.
Yeah, just first off, would like to thank you guys for having me on, and then our foundation. I'd love any support we can get there, even if it's just time. We you can go to logancookefoundation.com to kind of look at that stuff and go to my social media stuff. And we'd love to have, some of the listeners come to our banquet. It's a good time. A lot of guns and hunting trips, fishing trips, and jewelry and all the things you can think of. Golf trips, Jaguars, game day experiences auctioned off. I mean, all the things. And it's a good time. And again, you get to support some of those remote villages in Kenya that don't have clean water or access to the word of Jesus. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. So.
Awesome stuff. Logan, I want to ask one funny question before we head out the door. I do play-by-play for the local high school here. I used to kick some during my football days. What's the most tired your foot has ever been in a game? Like, man, I got to go back out here and do this again.
Louisiana
What was
Tech.
the most tired, and what happened on that kick?
Louisiana Tech, definitely. Nothing in particular happened. I just remember I kicked off so much, and they had this glass building behind. This is whenever we played. It might have been 2016. I'm not sure. 17. But we played down there at La Tech, and they had this glass. I guess it was their weight room or something behind the end zone. And I remember the ref kept betting me that I couldn't hit it, and I kept trying to hit it. And I hit it a couple times, but I remember we kicked off so much. And I think that was the third 93 game. And was that many times? Yeah, it was several times.
9 times, man.
It was a lot. I was definitely tired. I was ready to go home for sure.
Yeah. Need an ice bath after that one, my friend.
Yep.
All right, so Logan, look, man, thank you as always, Hell State, and we would love to catch up with you during the football season.
Yes, sir. Hell State, thank you.
All right, so guys, that is going to wrap up the interview there with Logan Cooke. We really do want to thank him for taking time out of his schedule to join us, and dude, that was amazing.
Yeah, even during the breaks when we were talking to Logan, he was sharing stories that, personal stuff from friends and things, and talking about his foundation. He talked at the FCA this morning at his wife's high school. He was able to do that. He even talked about Dak donating some stuff to the Logan Cooke Foundation to be auctioned off. So if you're a Dak fan, Cowboys fan, or anything like that, hey, check out Logan Cooke's foundation. And man, it is raising some great money for a great cause. But just enjoyed talking to Logan. I wish we had more time. And Stephen, if we were around a campfire, I think he would open up a little bit more of those stories that he can't say on air.
I know. Or if we were on Sirius XM, but we are on the radio, so we have to abide by the FCC guidelines.
Hey, what did last call Scott Hall say? You make the rules, and I'll break them, Chico.
I heard that. All right, so guys, that is going to wrap up yet another edition of the Stingray Show. When we come back on tomorrow evening, we are going to be joined by another big-time player. You'll just have to see who that is. And Heath, any final words? Because we are done.
Yeah, Logan Cooke was fun to talk about. Hey, just got voted, nominated, and won being All-Pro the first time in his career.
Yep.
And so, man, how awesome is it, Stephen? We've had Super Bowl winners on this show. We've had national championship players and coaches on this show. But we've had actually a couple of All-Pro guys on this show. But Logan's the first guy that's a current All-Pro guy. Too bad he didn't get that free trip to Hawaii.
So, guys, we will catch you tomorrow evening right back here on the Stingray Show.
Hey, why don't you go kick it like Logan Cooke, Stingray?
I need to kick this sickness, man. That's what I need to do.